So picture this. You've got this ancient prophet, and he has a message he is absolutely desperate to deliver. It's a message about total disaster. The problem, his audience, a community of exiles, has just tuned him out. They've heard it all before, and frankly, they're not buying it anymore. So what's a prophet to do? Well, he does something really, really weird.
Yeah, let's just pause on that. This is the big question his neighbors were suddenly asking. Imagine looking out your window and seeing this guy, Ezekiel, packing a bag during the day like he's going on a trip. But then, as the sun goes down, he starts digging right through the wall of his own house. It's this bizarre public performance, and it's all designed to make people stop and ask, what in the world is going on?
And there's your answer. This wasn't some kind of breakdown. It was street theater, performance art with the highest stakes imaginable. See, Ezekiel knew that just talking wasn't cutting it anymore. His audience, as the text puts it, had eyes to see but do not see, and ears to hear but do not hear. So he had to show them. He had to physically act out the uncomfortable truth that they were trying so desperately to ignore.
Right? So none of this was random. It was a carefully choreographed performance, a living, breathing symbol for a disaster, a political and spiritual disaster that was about to crash down on Jerusalem. This was pretty much Ezekiel's last-ditch effort, his Hail Mary, to make them finally see what was coming. And every single step here was designed to be a gut punch. First, he packs an exile's bag out in the open, in broad daylight, making everyone think about what it feels like to be violently kicked out of your own home. Then, the act of digging through his own wall, that's just shocking and destructive. He leaves at twilight, that eerie time between day and night, full of uncertainty. But that last detail, that's the one that really gets you. He covers his face. It's a symbol of a grief so deep, he can't even bear to look back at the home he's losing. So, what did all of this really mean? This wasn't just a generic warning that something bad is coming. Oh no, this performance was a very specific and incredibly grim prophecy. And it was aimed right at the top, at the highest level of power back home in Jerusalem. That's right. Ezekiel was literally acting out the exact fate of their king, Zedekiah. He was showing his fellow exiles that this thing that was coming, it wasn't going to spare anyone, not even the king. The message was that the disaster would be so complete that even royalty would be captured, trying to sneak out of a hole in the wall and dragged away. And this, right here, perfectly captures Ezekiel's whole point. From a purely human perspective, it was just history playing out. A bigger army attacks a city, breaks through the walls, and catches the king. Simple. But from the prophetic point of view, that army was just a tool. The real power at play, the real agent, was God, who says, I will spread my net over him. The message couldn't be clearer. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a consequence. So you would think that after seeing a guy dig through his wall to act out the fall of the king, people might start paying attention, right? Nope. Despite this incredibly vivid and shocking performance, the audience just doubled down on their denial. And their reasons for not believing, well, they sound surprisingly modern. They had a couple of pretty clever arguments to tune out the warning. Ezekiel actually has a name for them. He calls them the rebellious house. And it's not just that they disagreed with his politics or something. No, it was deeper. They were willfully blind and deaf. They had all the evidence they needed right in front of them, but they were actively choosing to ignore it. And that is why a simple sermon wasn't going to work. That's why he had to grab a shovel. Okay, so here's their first line of defense. It was a popular saying they'd repeat to each other, which basically translates to, yeah, we've heard it all before. They were saying, look, you prophets have been warning us for years and nothing's happened. You're just full of hot air. It's that classic skepticism, right? If it hasn't happened yet, it's probably never going to happen. And if that argument didn't work, they had a backup. It was classic procrastination. Okay, fine, Ezekiel, maybe you're right. Maybe disaster is coming, but not for us. Not now. That's for some distant future generation. The text compares it to a heavy smoker hearing a warning about cancer and thinking, that's a problem for future me. I'll worry about it later. It's a complete dismissal of any sense of urgency. But it gets even more complicated because Ezekiel wasn't just fighting against apathy, he was also dealing with some serious professional competition. See, there were other prophets out there, and they were selling a very different and way more popular product. The whole conflict really came down to a simple choice.
On one side, you had Ezekiel. He's delivering this tough message from God that demands people take responsibility and change their ways. On the other side, you had these prophets who are basically just making stuff up, spinning these feel-good stories of peace, peace, that required nothing from the people. Now, which one of those messages do you think was selling better?
And this brings us to this really powerful metaphor. Ezekiel says the messages from these false prophets were like a flimsy wall, built really fast with cheap materials, but then you slap a nice coat of whitewash on it and hey, it looks pretty good, it looks solid. But the second a real storm hits, that wall is coming down, and it's going to crush anyone who is foolish enough to hide behind it.
So this all leads us to the biggest challenge in the whole story, for them back then and for us today. When you're surrounded by all these conflicting voices, all these different messages, how in the world do you tell the truth from a comforting lie?
Well, Ezekiel basically gives us a field guide for spotting fakes. He says, first, be wary of people who are just speaking from their own imagination, their own ego, not from a deeper truth. Be really skeptical of anyone who only ever tells you what you want to hear. Those easy, optimistic messages that never ask you to change. They don't stand up for people when it gets tough. Instead, he says they're like jackals among ruins, just scavenging for influence, not actually helping to rebuild anything.
And at the end of the day, that's the timeless lesson here, isn't it? That whitewashed wall, that comforting lie, it might feel safe for a little while, but it offers zero actual protection when the storm hits. It's the difficult, the uncomfortable, the challenging truth that if you actually face it, has the real power to save you.
So this story about the prophet digging through his wall, it's not just some ancient history lesson. It leaves us with a question that echoes right down to our own lives. When we're the ones with eyes that can choose not to see and ears that can choose not to hear, which message do we listen to? The one that challenges us or the one that just tells us everything is fine?